Hi, my name is Keri Barnum. I am the Executive Director for New Shelves Books, and we're here for Free Advice Friday, the hour every Friday where we get together, talk about book marketing, publishing, and anything really having to do with the author journey. You can join us live at newshelves.com/FAF, or you can send in your questions by email at info@newshelves.com, and we will answer them live, and we post everything up on YouTube. I really aim for Monday, don't always make that, but we do put our replays up on youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So you can join us in multiple ways, and we hope that you do. This week we have a couple of emailed questions as well as some questions live and some things that just came up that I was like, man, we should really talk about this. So I'm actually going to start with that one. I'm going to start with a question that I've gotten 2 or 3 times just over the last day. Actually, just in the last day, I've gotten the same question 2 or 3 times. It's nothing new. It's nothing crazy. It's just something that has come up. And so I was like, hey, we should talk about it. So that question is, how do I find bookstores near me? If you're trying to pitch out author events, if you're trying to pitch anything really, if you're trying to get your book stocked in a bookstore, you're trying to find author events, how do you find bookstores near you? And I've got some really easy ways to do that. First, let's start with Barnes and Noble. So if I go to Barnes and Noble, here, let's do this first. All right, so if I go to Barnes and Noble and I have to go to a book, obviously I can go to any book, find your book. And you can see here where you've got the options of shipping an item or check store availability. Now this book is not out yet, so I know it's not available yet, but that's okay. That's not the point. What we do is we check on store availability and it will give you 100 miles within a certain zip code. So you can see right here, this zip code is for Rochester, New York, where New Shelves is based, and it tells me all of my local Barnes and Noble stores. It's giving me the phone number to every single one of them. So if I want to call and talk to a hiring, or not a hiring manager, if I want to talk to a buyer, a manager, if I want to talk to an events coordinator, I can just call them directly and it's got all the information right there. And that is a really easy way to check in, number one, see if your book's in stock, but also to find stores close to you. Now, let's say I'm going on a trip to visit my dad who lives in Virginia Beach, and I want to possibly do a book event there because, hey, I'm going to be there. Why not? All I have to do is type in that Virginia Beach zip code, and it's going to now search that, and it's changed all to the Virginia Beach stores. And I can set my distance. This is 100 miles, but maybe I'm like, man, I really don't want to travel more than 25 miles at most. And that's what I want to do. I can pull it down a little bit and it'll give me the 3 stores that are local. And it gives me, again, their phone numbers, their information, their hours. So this can be a really great way to get information for direct stores and the ones in the area you're looking for. Now, what if we really want indie bookstores? It's just as simple, except for this time we're going to go to IndieBound. And IndieBound, of course, is kind of the housing spot for indie bookstores. And it's got the same thing. Find your local indie bookstore. Okay, well, I'm going to type in a local to me zip code. And when I type it in, maybe I need to accept all the cookies. When I type it in, yeah, wow, it does the same thing. And it tells me how close they are to me. And it's got all the information here. And if I click on it, it brings me to all the information about the bookstore. It gives me their website. So again, I can call them, I can email them. If I go to the bookstore and I go to their website, usually there's a contact button. Oh, right there, contact us. And so I can click on this right away and get the information for the bookstore. So this says right here, here's their address. I can call them. I've got the phone number, or I can contact them with a contact form. If you are running into where you are sending emails and you don't feel like they're getting through, doing a contact form as a soft opener can be great, because the contact form is more likely to get through directly to the person you're trying to reach. So you don't have to put a whole pitch in there, but you know, a basic kind of pitch to them certainly works. It also gives me their social media channels. I can go right here and be like, hey, let me go to their social media and maybe see what they're all about. Are they doing events? What kind of vibe do they have? Even better than that. So it's got there. But also, if you go to the about section will very often have more contact information, and it is more likely to have an email address if that's how I'd like to reach people. So it does take a little bit of digging. It takes a little bit of time, but if you are trying to arrange a book tour, if you're trying to talk to local buyers or local bookstores and you want to know the stores that are local to you specifically, this is a great way to do it. It's a great way to find those bookstores. You can do the same thing with other big retailers like Books A Million and do it that way. But again, it takes some time, it takes a little bit of work, but I get asked all the time, well, how do I even know what bookstores? Do I just Google? You can Google, and that is effective. However, this is meant for people finding bookstores. It correlates it all into one spot based on your zip code, makes it really easy. And this is a great way to be able to find bookstores in your area when you would like to reach out, again, for stocking consideration of your book, for events, anything like that. Let's see. Yep. Sometimes local bookstores will charge a consignment fee. Rather than outright buying a book, they may charge a consignment fee. And that is essentially saying that rather than them outright buying your book and putting it on the shelves, they will charge a consignment fee, which can be anywhere from $25 to, I've seen it as high as $150. And what that essentially is a fee for their time to put your book on their shelves, to put it in their system. And then they're only paying you if the books sell. So for example, it may be a 40-60 split where the bookstore keeps 40% of the retail price and you keep 60, but of course you're paying the price of the books out of that. However, they're going to say, give us 3 to 5 books. We'll put them on our shelves, but no money is exchanged unless that book actually sells. No money from the sale, I should say, because there is, of course, that stocking charge. So that's not unusual. It depends on the store. Not all stores will do that. Sometimes they'll outright order it. Depends on if you have proven demand and the bookstore itself. It really just depends. But consignment is an option, and consignment when it's local to you is not a bad option. It gets your foot into the door. I know we've talked about that before, where sometimes you just need your book on their shelves. And then if it sells out and they keep asking for more, sells out, they ask for more. Sure, I'll restock you. They sell out again and they ask for more again because they're making a profit on your book. That's when you go, you know, I really don't have any copies on hand, but it's available from Ingram at a full trade discount. So it can be a really great segue to get your foot in the door to start a relationship with a bookstore, because it's got less of a risk for them. So they're more likely to venture out to new authors and new books that way. So I think that's important. We know our friend Randy, who's got the bar poems, is going to be going on a road trip with his books. And we were talking about that and how he might be able to find bookstores along the way. And I said, hey, do you know the zip codes of where you're staying, or you're staying at friends' houses and things like that? Just plug in the zip code and then you know who to reach out to, where to reach out to, and you're assured that these bookstores, because you can see how far they are from the zip code, that they're fairly close, which is nice. All right, an emailed question I got in this week was about price barcode. We've talked about this before, about how price barcodes are one of those things that in the indie world, there's a lot of chatter about it. In the indie world, you will have people saying it's not worth doing a price barcode. Then you have to change, you have to upload new things to Ingram Spark if your price changes. It's not worth it. Don't do it. You don't need it to get into bookstores. And then we also know that I disagree. Do you always have to have a price barcode to get into a bookstore, especially if it's an indie bookstore? No. And honestly, if you're selling enough copies that a bookstore knows they're going to make money off of you, do they have to have a price barcode? No. I mean, it's business. If they're going to make money off of you and it's worth the extra work to price your book, fine. However, if you are purposely, if your goal is to get into Barnes and Nobles, if Books a Million, airports, if your goal is to get into chains as well as indies, you need a price on your barcode. It is actually required on Barnes and Noble. When you submit to the small press department, it is one of their questions. You must have a priced barcode to get into Barnes and Noble. Do you have that on your book? It is a question on their form for acceptance into the small press department. So sometimes it really just depends. It just completely depends based on what your goals are. If you know you're not going to go hard after bookstores, not as big of a deal. But if you know bookstores are a market that you would like to chase after, then yes, you need a price barcode. So step one, we've got that covered in what it might look like. The next question was, should I have a US price barcode if my book could be sold internationally? Will it hurt international sales to have a US price barcode? And my answer to that is, of course, you guys know me, it's always based on your goals and based on your book. So my answer to that was basically, will having a price barcode on your book hurt you? No. May not having a price barcode on your book hurt you? Yes. So it could hurt you not to have it, but it's really not going to hurt you to have it. Worst case scenario, it's a bit of a hassle if you do change your price. However, most people are not changing their paperback price often. So that's usually not a big factor for things if you're not changing your paperback price often. Then the question comes in about whether or not a US price barcode is going to be worth it if it's going to hurt you. And when we look at the publishing industry, there are three vast majority holders of the publishing industry in book sales. And those happen in the US, in Germany, and in China. I mean, almost 25% for each one. I mean, that's most of the market. And it's really important to note that the publishing in China often is actually English books being shipped over to the US for book sales. And when we look at the sales of books and the profit of the publishing industry, 25 to 26 billion dollars of the publishing industry happens right here in the US annually. That is the lion's share. And of those books, even books that are published in other countries, many of them are still in English. So if we are looking at who to cater to when you're print on demand, because print on demand, you can't have a bunch of different print runs. If you are HarperCollins, well, HarperCollins has a distribution warehouse in the US, they have a distribution warehouse in the UK, and they have a distribution warehouse in different areas and countries. And what they do is they will do a print run for the US. And the US print run will have the US price barcode, it will have the US cover, and that gets printed and shipped directly for the US, and that's where they sell it. For the UK, they have everything put in pounds on their price barcode. And in some cases, they even have different covers. It's not unusual for them to even have different subtitles because over in the UK, they really love their subtitles. So there are different nuances, but they are doing a completely different print run, an offset print run, and shipping that to their warehouse in the UK and their distributor there. So because they are large companies, because they're doing offset print run, they have the availability to really specify down and be more specific to the region that they're printing, shipping, and selling in. That's not the case with print on demand. Print on demand, you're uploading one book, one title, and kind of getting it out everywhere. And that's what it is. And so in my opinion, you may differ and you may choose differently. My opinion is if your book's market is mainly in the US if your book is in English, and if you know that most of your marketing will be in the US, well, then you cater to the giant in the room, which is the US, which is the dollar, and that's what you put on your barcode. And if other countries choose to purchase your book, they can reprice it, they can put a sticker on it. And that's pretty much what a lot of other countries do anyway, because so many things in publishing are US focused and US front forward with English and things like that. So you have to weigh. Now, if your book, let's say your book is not really focused on the US market, maybe it's a British rom-com and it's really focused more on the UK market. Well, then the decision would be different and you would make different choices based on that. But for a book that is largely going to be marketed in the US with US English and things like that, I would go with the US dollar for that. So of course, again, always, it goes with your goals, but that is kind of the big overview of what I personally recommend based on that scenario. Just because, again, you cater to the biggest sales platform that you have and who you're going after. Let's see. All right, so I think that's all we have on that one. I've got some live questions, but they're not about that. So I'll go on to that. And yes, Cheryl is saying this isn't a question, but I wanted to give a shout out to Amit Day, who is a interior format designer that we highly recommend for his ebook and other services. I've been blown away by the outstanding service he provides, and so affordably. I would recommend him without reservation. So thank you, Cheryl, for that feedback. We work with Amit all the time, and he is a gem, absolute gem. So anyone looking for interior design or ebook services, if you need that and you want a recommendation, let me know. I'm happy to do an email intro to Amit because he is a rock star, especially for text heavy books, chapter books, and he's so fast too. Always pleased with Amit, and I'm glad you were too, Cheryl. See, what items do you need to give a cover designer? Do you need a barcode for the cover designer? Sure, that completely depends on your cover designer. Usually they have a checklist of things that they need. Some of them will actually pull a template, let's say for Ingram Spark, which comes with a barcode on it. Some of them may ask for a barcode to affix on it. Some will simply give you the cover with no barcode, and you have to put it on yourself. So it depends on your cover designer. Typically, they're going to ask you to fill out a questionnaire or some questions, such as what's your genre? What's the title of your book? Subtitle, author's name? What comps do you like? What other books are you trying to emulate? Are there any certain colors that you like or you want to stay away from? Are you going for photo realism on your cover? Or are you trying to go for illustrations? These are the questions that a designer would typically ask you. And I always say that I always recommend that you have an idea of the cover you want before you find a designer. Go find some comps that you really love. So as you're looking at a designer in their portfolio, you can decide if that works well. Is the design that that the designer is putting out, does it match what you're hoping to emulate through your comps? And if not, maybe it's not a good fit. You would have to decide that. But most designers, again, have a basics of what they are looking for and what they will ask you for. And it depends on how often you work with them. I work with a designer that I've been working with for years. We've done 15, 20 covers or more together. So when we go together, it's like we just know what the other person needs and doesn't need. I give her 2 to 3 comps, I give her a title, and I give her an overall idea of what I want it to feel like. And then I say, give me some ideas of what you can do. And she does. And it's fantastic. But that's partially because she knows what I'm looking for in my style. And I know the information she needs to be successful. So you got to know what your designer needs because it changes. It changes depending on the designer. Let's see, I entered my book to the Benjamin Franklin Award contest. The judge fussed because there was no price printed on the barcode that the reader can see. How do we get that? I accepted what the ISBN people sent me and it wasn't there. Do we need to ask for it separately? See you, Mary. I'm not alone. I'm not the only fussy one. So to create a priced barcode, it's actually really easy. I have a YouTube video on it, how you can do it yourself. I pull mine by doing an Ingram Spark template, excuse me, and then putting it on there. So let me find that video. It's right on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/newshelvesbooks and search priced barcode, it will pop right up. Let me actually share my screen here because I'll show you two things. Oops. I'll try to show you. All right, here we go. So here we are on YouTube for New Shelves Books. And if you just go, again, all I did, I went to youtube.com/newshelvesbooks right here. And so you can, in addition to just seeing whatever is currently playing, what the newest stuff is, which is usually Free Advice Friday, you can also search for different things just like you do on our blog. So if you do, well, let's do barcode. Things will show up that have that keyword and tag to them. And you will find this video, this one where I'm looking very happy. And you will also find this video that's how to create a free price barcode for your book. So this is kind of lengthy and it walks you through literally like every step of the way. So I am going to drop this in our chat so you have the link directly. I'm going to try to drop this in our chat. There we go. And so that's in the chat, but I also will show you guys directly. If you go to Ingram Spark template, if you go to the Ingram Spark template generator, we'll go here. You can create your own price barcode. You can pull your own price barcode. Like if you need it for a designer or something like that. And all you have to do is you enter in your ISBN, your trim size, all the things you need for your book. So I have no clue what book this is. It was just one that auto-populated for me. So we're gonna see if that is, let's see. This is based on, of course, things I've already done. All right, so let's do this. It is going to, if your book is already on Ingram Spark, it's going to automatically populate all of these choices through here for your book. This book is a 6x9, it's in black and white, it's on cream. If it doesn't auto-populate because your book is not created yet, you do have to fill these things in. Now, know that this is making you an entire template. So when you do this, it actually will tell you how big your spine needs to be and all of that. But the important thing that you need is down at the end here, and I always do it for a PDF, and you have to do your email address, but down at the end here where it says optional information, you need to put your price in here, and then you have your currency, US dollars, UK pounds, and Canadian dollars. Well, I want US dollars. Do it there, and then price in barcode, you want to change to yes. And if you submit that, when you get your template back, it will have a price barcode on there that you can crop out and give to your designer, or you can give them the whole template. So you can do that. Of course, if you have a designer that is, I do that way so that I can switch out the barcode whenever I want to with a new price barcode. But if you're working with a designer, you can also simply ask them to add the price to your barcode. For bigger clients, like I have a client that just shipped out for 30,000 print copies. We did 30,000 print copies being shipped out for the launch of this book. And for that, we did the price in US and Canadian dollars because that's most of the market that we'll be really focusing on. So they did a print run. So we did something a little bit different because that's what they needed for a big print run versus print on demand. So it does depend a little bit on your needs, but that's an easy way to pull one. Does a cover designer do different designs for each book type, paper, ebook, hardcover? Typically, they do not share. They're not doing a different design for each one. Now, I will say it will be different files. Your ebook file is typically going to be a JPEG that is sized for upload to places like Draft to Digital and KDP. However, this is typically just the front cover of your book. I mean, it's just an image of the front cover. When you have a paperback, that's going to be a PDF file, and that's going to be a full spread. So it's going to show your front cover, your spine, well, front cover, spine, back cover. So it'll kind of be laid out like that. And then your hardcover is, you have two options. It's either going to be a case laminate, which means it's just a hardcover, but it's the same cover as your paperback, in which case they're just sizing it differently. And you just have your main, you know, front, spine, side, and that's it, or back. However, if you're doing a hardcover with a jacket, that is a different design. Typically, it takes its cues from your paperback design, but a jacket, let's remember, has flaps. So then you have a front flap, a front, a spine, a back, and a back flap. So oftentimes you need more information or to shift information around to fill up those spaces. It's fairly common, if you do that, to have your front cover be pretty much the same. The front flap becomes your book description, what would typically go on the back of your cover. And then the back of your cover often will have endorsements or reviews. And the front flap will have an about the author, a little bit of a bio, how to reach you, that kind of thing. So that is a little bit different for hardcover if you're doing flaps, but otherwise it's different sizes of the same design. It's not too much different if you're doing an audiobook. It's not just, audiobooks, of course, are square. It's got that square design. So it's not typically just them taking and cropping down for a square, because you have to make sure that the best part of the scene or of the cover gets on there with the title. So oftentimes that requires them taking the title down and shifting a little bit to making it fit on a, you know, a square, cutting off essentially like a third of the cover. So they have to make sure they squish it together and it still looks fabulous. And oftentimes on an audiobook cover, you will add not only the author's name, but narrated by, and then you have the narrator's name. So there are subtle changes there. And that is why often you will have different charges for those different formats. It's not just, hey, one, you know, I'll make as many covers and formats as you want if you pay this one fee. Usually it's, there's a fee for the ebook, and then if you want a paperback, there's an upcharge. If you want a hardcover, it's an upcharge. If you want flaps in a jacket, there's a different charge in audio, and so on and so forth. So it depends on your needs there. Val is asking, I want to send my book announcement press release to a few additional contacts. Should I change the date to the date on which I'm sending it, or keep it as the initial release date? Val, I would say if you're sharing your press release and it's not going to the press, if you're sending it to contacts or you're sending it even to local press, you would keep your press release the same. However, if you're updating your press release and sending it out wide scale to many people at the same time, I would update your dates. And that actually ties into another question that I got. This one, I believe, was from Catherine about press releases and where to share them and how to share them. You know, you've got this press release. What do you do with it? Do you put it up on your Amazon author page? Do you put it up on your website? All the questions about, I've got this fabulous press release. Now, what do I do with it? So let's talk about that. When you have a press release, there are several things you can do with it. Number one, your press release must go to the press. And that may mean that you are physically going out and emailing copies to different press outlets, such as local news outlets or things like that. Many of us will also use a press release agency. And a press release agency is simply someone who has a lot of contacts with the press, a lot of emails and things like that, who will, for a fee, send out your press release to multiple people at one time. And so you of course pay them for that. And what they do essentially is they put out this big pitch saying, all right, this is a press release going out. They send it out to everyone. And then it's up to those individual places to decide if they would like to actually care or to post the press release on their own website. Most of the time, they are simply reposting. They are not taking this and running it as a story. They are simply reposting on their website. And it is not someone, as I explained recently, it is not someone who is sitting in an office going through all these press releases going, oh, this is juicy, I should post this, or this isn't good enough, I'm not going to post that. Typically what it is these press sites have bots, and the bots are programmed to comb for certain words based on what their website is about. So certain news websites are really focused on sports. So they are focused, and their bots are focused on scanning for sports words in press releases, and it could be put up there. Some of them are not only focused on certain aspects like sports or literature or different things, but they are combing for trending words. So they actually tie into SEO and Google. For example, I was talking to someone yesterday about how this month is Pride Month. So many words that are focused around Pride Month and celebrating that will be bot words that are being searched for press releases because it's trending news. So as you're writing a press release and releasing a press release, keep that in mind. That's how many people pick up your press release is number one, based on what content you're offering, what keywords you're using, and also how slow the news is that day. Hate to be that blunt, but it's true. If they don't have a lot of big stories that day, they still have to keep news articles up on their website. That's what we expect from news. So if it's a slow day, they will pick up more of these press releases that are just pushed out to go up on their websites. If it's a busy day, it will get less attention. I'm going to go out there and say that when the Johnny Depp Amber Heard decision was made, most of the random press releases being pushed out through these places were not getting much attention because they had so much other stuff to talk about. And as far as that goes, I will share this is just one. I have used them before. I like them just fine. There are several different places that will push out a press release and distribute it for you. And I've used many of them. They are all pretty close to the same price and the same service. I jokingly said I wouldn't be surprised if they're all owned by the same person under different names. But essentially what you do is you pay either for bulk press releases. So you can say, I'm going to sign up for 10 distributions and it's cheaper per one, or you can just do a launch and a distribution for one press release. And you upload your information and this company puts it up, pushes it out, and then they give you a report of all of the websites that picked it up. Keep in mind, this is for SEO. This is a billboard. This is not for ROI. This is not going to make people run and buy your book. It makes your book more searchable. It gives you some nice SEO, and it gives you an opportunity to get your name out there. If your story is good enough, it may capture someone's attention, which brings me to my next point. Please, my friends, hear me now. Your book coming out is not news. It's news to you. It's exciting to you, but it is not news. It's not national news. It's not even local news unless you make it local news. So keep that in mind. Having a press release announcing your book is great, but if you can attach that announcement of your book with a story, with an expose, with something exciting, if you can attach it to something that's trending like Pride Month, then you've got a story of human interest that people might pick up on. But what they're looking for, they come for the story And if it's interesting enough, then they go to find the book because they want to learn more. But a book in and of itself, unless you are famous and you're putting out a book, or you are someone who's been a recluse and has not written a book for 10 years and you were like this famous author before, it's not news. So think of that as you are writing your book or your press release, that think about how it's news. And even if you have a pretty basic press release, if you're pitching it to local press, spin the story. Local author writes national bestseller. That's news. Local author publishes book. It's not very exciting. So think of it that way. So tying in to holidays, tying into current events, tying into other big things, or a big story in and of itself. Could your story be a big story? Could it be something of human interest? Lead with the story and let the book be the follow-up. That's what a press release is. It's news. It's exciting. A book, exciting to you and I, but a book and just announcing that a book's out there is not exciting. It's not news, and it won't get you very far if you're doing a press release that way. So keep that in mind. All right, let's see. And another question from Cher on covers. Do you need to get the cover done before sending your book to the interior designer so they can match the style? Cher, different people have different opinions on this. It does depend on how stylized you'd like your book to be. I personally recommend that you at least are working on the front cover so you have an idea of style and design on that front cover before you work on the interior. And that's my personal process, is I at least have the front cover design basics done. Now maybe we'll make some tweaks. Maybe we're gonna, put in a word here or change a little bit of wording, but I like to have the basics of the front cover done, or if it's an illustrated or a children's book, have those illustrations done so you can kind of work off of that. It does make a more cohesive book altogether. Yes, children's books, as Jane says, reinforce literacy, which is a good hook for press release. Yes, Jane gets it. Literacy is huge. Literacy over the summer reading, keeping kids engaged, not losing progress over the summer. That's a big hot topic. And if you put that together and you have something about that with your children's book that helps children maintain excitement about reading over the summer, then you've got a story, then you've got interest. I was just telling a friend this morning, we were talking about our kids are almost out of school, and in an age of electronics, I'm determined that my children will spend more time outside than they do inside. And it is something that I personally do. My children pay me for time on electronics with reading. If they would like to be on a tablet for a half hour, they will first read for a half hour. If they'd like to watch a 2-hour-long movie, better get to reading. And that's how we kind of monitor and trade off. And that way they are motivated to read because they want to do other things. And it's always, I love it when they're like, oh, I didn't mean to keep on reading. And yet they do, because they get excited. My kids and my daughter is totally off topic, but hey, my daughter is 11 and she really wants to watch the movie Hunger Games, which I think is PG-13, which they watch some of that, but anyway. And I told her she really wants to watch the Hunger Games. And I said, well, that's a book. So if you want to watch this movie, I said, I'll make a deal with you. You read the book. You have to tell me about every chapter. See, I have to know that they actually read it. I'm like, mommy has read these books. So you read the book. You have to tell me about every chapter. And then when you're done reading the book, we will have a Hunger Games party and we will watch the movie. And my son was like, I want to do that too. So I was like, okay, fine. And then the neighbor heard about it. The neighbor's like, oh, I kind of want to do that. So we now have like this summer reading club of kids who are going to read the Hunger Games, and then we're going to have a big party. Who knows? Maybe I'll dress up and turn into Effie for the night. But again, literacy for kids, big thing, but it has to be exciting. It has to be a story. You have to have some meat in there as you announce your book, because that's what makes it exciting. And keep in mind that you can do multiple press releases for your book. You can do a press release announcing your book, and then you can do a press release tying your book to a local story or a local event. You can do another press release that talks about literacy in the summer. You can kind of revive old books and interest in press on them by talking about what's trending now and tying it in. So it's not one and done. You can do multiple press releases as long as you have a story to tell and not just information to dump. Do we need to buy Publisher Rocket to do keyword search for a nonfiction book title and subtitle? You do not have to ever buy any programs. No, you don't ever have to buy things. Publisher Rocket is a tool that I love and I highly recommend if you're going to be doing keyword and category research for your book, if you intend to run Amazon ads and would like to use it for keywords. But you don't have to use that program and that software. You can go onto Amazon and just research the heck out of things yourself. These tools make it easier, and Publisher Rocket in particular is a one-time buy and then you have it for life, and I personally use it a lot. But do you have to buy it? Absolutely not. You can go and you can manually go and you search things. It just makes life easier. So it really depends on you, your use, your budget. Sometimes we've got time for legwork and we don't have money for new software. So that depends on you. And let's see, after losing 2 children and a grandchild, I have written a book on grief recovery that has a Christian worldview. I need reviews. Any suggestions? Well, first, I am so sorry for your loss, but as far as your book goes and finding reviews, I would go to those communities. If you have communities, grief communities online, healing communities that you think your book would be helpful for, perhaps going there and finding people who may be willing to take a copy. But I know that can be iffy because asking someone for a review when they're grieving can be hard. But leaders of the group, people who have maybe already kind of gone through that a little bit and are removed by time or experience, and they may be able to read it and review it based on being in that atmosphere and knowing what might be helpful. Going through people who deal with grief, pastors, think of people who are funeral home directors, people who, again, are not necessarily in the grieving process, who you want to be very respectful of, but people who are often around people grieving, who, I mean, they make recommendations all the time. I was actually talking to someone who has this whole book on grief, and it's a funeral home, and they sell it at the funeral home. They keep it stocked at the funeral home because they think it's so helpful. So there are things like that you can do. Social workers and counselors, great idea, Val. And let's see, I think you could easily go and this is one of those things where, of course, you could do NetGalley, you could do Hidden Gems, but that's a little bit harder because on a niche topic like this, there are things that are harder to pitch out. Number one, because it's a heavy topic, but also sometimes people just don't feel adequate to put a book out there. I mean, if you were looking for reviews on a book about grief of losing a parent, I could do that. My mom died when I was 20. I feel like I have the life experience where I could give an honest review or feedback. But if you're asking about a grief book for children, I personally would probably say, man, I don't feel like I am equipped to give a great review on that or give an opinion because I don't know what would be truly helpful. So I think that's a little bit hard because you need to find the people who've experienced that or who have some education or knowledge in that, but you also want to be very respectful of the families. So I think it is going to be a bit of a juggle, but think of the people who help and who are around that. And even you yourself having experienced loss, Who were the people who circled around you, who supported you, who maybe again would be able to recommend or review that kind of book. And yes, as far as stocking the book, hospital gift shops, funeral homes, social workers, counselors, all of that. Let's see in the chat here. Anyone who understands what you've done to tell your own story, actually making the book happen, will likely be generous with the review. Absolutely true. People that know you personally. And Tara's saying, I've written a book. I have a book I've written on grief as well after losing my fiance. However, I don't position it so much as a grief book as an inspirational one. And lots of people love to read inspirational stories. So true. So it just depends. It depends on your book in particular, but hopefully that gives you some ideas and some place of starting. I know sometimes it's just so hard to know where to start, and hopefully that gives you some ideas to help you there. Share, I do. As far as positioning, I call it positioning. So Cher is asking if I personally work with authors on positioning, both with the style of things like their cover and books to emulate comp titles, your title and subtitle, keywords. I do. That's book positioning, and I do work with authors and publishers one-on-one on that. So feel free to reach out to me, Cher. I know we have a call scheduled, so we can jump on that a little bit more. I will follow up with you on that, Cher. I don't have my calendar up right now, so I'm afraid I can't do that right now. All right, we have a couple more minutes. So if anyone has questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm going to make sure I think I answered all of, oh, I got so sidelined by the places and how and what to put in a press release. I stopped talking about where to put them. In addition to using it and distributing it out to the press and using it in your personal pitch to local press, your press release should absolutely be saved as a PDF and added to your media kit so that it is on your website with your media kit. When the media wants information on your book, they should be able to download a one sheet on your book, and they should be able to download a headshot and a bio view, as well as a press release if you have it. And also, as you're pitching out places like reviewers, like professional reviews, Publishers Weekly and things like that, oftentimes they will look for a press release as well. So that's a great place to use those press releases. Would I personally upload it to my Amazon Author Central? Probably not. You could save it as an image and upload it to Author Central there, but that's going to be really tiny. It's going to get kind of small, and that's going to make it hard to read. And typically the average reader who's on your author page isn't looking for that. They want fun stuff. They want book trailers. They want pictures of you with your books. They want awards and that kind of thing. So I personally would not use it on my Author Central page specifically. You could absolutely post it as a blog, share it as a blog on your website, to kind of share it just like a news site would, to share it for that announcement. So those are a couple of ideas of how you can use a press release outside of obvious press channels. I think that's it, you guys. Like I said, if you have any more questions, let me know. I got through all my emailed questions, unless I have any last minute ones, but I think we covered. I will just double check. Yep. Got 10 emails while we were on our call, but none of them anything like that. So I think we're good. All right. Well, I think we're all good for today. Looks like we've got our questions answered. We'll be back next Friday, same time, same place, newshelves.com/FAF, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you have questions that require more research or you can't join us live, feel free to email them into info@newshelves.com. We will be back next Friday, and see you then. Bye.